Hey guys, welcome to my lifting series where I record every single set and rep that I possibly can. This is really so that not only can I entertain and educate you guys, but also this is a self-improvement thing for me. So it kind of goes both ways. I'm constantly trying to improve my form, the way I do things in the gym, and then by doing so, I hope that I help you guys through your gym journey as well. Anyway, this is week 2, day 5 of my MyoMax training program. You guys can get it down in the description down below for $10 if you guys choose. But honestly, you guys don't need it at all because I record all my sets and reps. So it's really just good if you either want to support me or you just want to, have a document where you can put in your individual sets and reps with ease. Of course, all you need is a notepad to do that though. So either way, you guys don't need to purchase the program, but I would love for your, I hope that I entertain you guys at least. Let me just say that. Anyway, today is a lower body day. I'm starting the day off with the Smith machine squats. And I've said it before, but I really like this variation because you're much more stable. So if you're doing something like a free weight squat with like a barbell, it's so much more of a technical lift. But since this is a hypertrophy program, we're just trying to build as much size as we possibly can. I really like having the Smith machine because you're more locked into place. So you can just work on pushing with your quads, thrusting with your glutes, stuff like that. And let's just get into set one. I don't need to speak anymore. I'm going up 10 pounds from 160 to 170. Doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm really emphasizing getting that depth. I think that that's extremely important when you're doing a squat or a leg movement of any kind. You really want to make sure you get that full range of motion. And that's my objective here. Maybe I could have gone one more there, but I think that those were really quality reps. And, I'll take it. I think that was a pretty productive set. I used to go through my leg days and think that just because it was getting hard, that meant that I was doing enough or working hard enough. But over time, I've realized that legs are just like any other muscle. They're just harder to train. So going to failure with legs is just as important as going to failure, at least approaching failure on any other muscle group. Just because the legs gets harder faster since it's, demanding so much more out of you, doesn't mean that you can stop like 5-6 reps shy of failure and expect to make the same progress, if that makes sense. You really got to be pushing them as hard as any other muscle group, just with the caveat that it's going to be harder. There's no way around it. And then what I was going to mention before is a lot of people are dogmatic. They have like a very narrow-minded way of thinking when regarding leg movements. In other words, and to be more detailed about what I'm trying to say, a lot of people, I'll receive comments, all you need is a barbell back squat. That's it. No other leg exercises at all. But just like I was saying, legs are the same as any other body part. Every skeletal muscle is relatively the same in that regard. You're gonna wanna hit it from different angles because a barbell back squat, while it's tremendously great for, strength development, quad development, glute development, it doesn't hit the hamstrings to a very great degree. And that's where something like a deadlift or a Nordic curl or something like that would come into play. One more. Another reason why I like the Smith machine variation of the back squat is because with a barbell, you're entirely like balance coordinated. So wherever is going to be ideal for your balance to go, wherever you can get the bar path as straight as possible, that's how your musculature is going to have to adapt in order to, not only be able to sink into the hole without totally losing your footing, but also be able to explode out of the hole with as much power as you can. But with the Smith machine variation, you can, since it's so fixed, you can put your feet wherever, and then that will shift the emphasis to your benefit. So just by having like my feet like a little bit further out, I'm suddenly shifting the emphasis like almost entirely to my quadriceps and removing the other musculature. Not entirely, of course. Of course, it's still going to be working, but it's going to at least remove it to a kind of a great degree. Unfortunately, today I'm extremely strapped for time. I had to work a little bit late, and the gym closes in like an hour and 15 minutes, which, like ideally I'd be able to complete the whole workout in that time. But with this being a hypertrophy program, we're doing so much work in every day, like so many sets and reps, that it's hard to complete it in that allotted time, especially when I'm, when we're doing this video series. So I'm just gonna try and kind of plow through stuff. Okay, so next up I'm doing the Smith machine RDL, and I like this combo because you don't have to move. I think that whenever you can apply that convenience factor, that's probably a good move, because ideally you don't want to be like having to move across the gym and then back and then risk something being taken. So whenever I can do something in the same area, I like to condense it into the same area. Since we're doing the RDL, the reason why I'm choosing this variation of the RDL is because on the first upper or lower body day of each week, I'm doing, and I hope you are doing it too, I'm doing the barbell Romanian deadlift. So it's a little bit more unstable and a little bit more technical than this. So the reason why I prefer the Smith machine squat to a barbell back squat in some cases is the same reason why I prefer the Smith machine RDL to like a barbell RDL. But in this case, it's really just for variety's sake. I think that not only does your body prefer a little bit of variety, but also it stops the workouts from becoming so monotonous as well. I think that's important. You don't want to lose interest in the gym, especially when you have goals. Okay, let's do the first set. I'm going up 50 pounds, I believe, so it's a big jump. Okay, definitely a big jump, and I could feel the difference for sure. Last time it was too light, I think I got 10 or something, and I was saying, if you recall, if I can recall even, last time I was saying I'm just gonna start with this because it's a new movement. This time jumped up quite a bit, but that feels where it should be. Challenging yet doable for the rep range that I'm trying to hit, which is around like 6 to 10. So the fact that I got 8, that's right in that sweet spot. I couldn't be happier. And I think my form was pretty good too. My only issue with this variation is very specific to my gym because for whatever reason, the Smith machine concaves in. So it's at a slope instead of straight up and down. And that really works for like a back squat when you're facing this way, because then it's kind of going with the line of curve of how you are inclined to squat. But in this regard, for the deadlift, the RDL variation, you're being like dragged forward. So I'm having to step up extra far into the bar in order to try and offset that, because that's a quick stop to being injured if the weight is going way out in front of you and it's off like the center of axis of your body weight. You know, that's why people try and keep it in like the center of gravity for them. And that's why that's such like an important cue, is to, you know, drag the bar down your knees and push your hips back instead of bringing the bar out here and not move your hips back. So. Oh man, definitely a good weight for me. I think it's perfect. To be honest, it's super crazy how much outside factors of the gym can actually impact how you feel and perform in the gym. Like even just working for 9 hours. Yes, I'm like on my feet all day. I'm a server, so I'm like, you know, serving food and being on my food all day, but it's not like super intense labor, but just that act of being physically active all day completely shifts how I feel in the gym. Sure, I don't feel awful. Like I can definitely get this done with relative ease, but it's not ideal, I'd say. So anyway, I think that's just something to keep in mind, is you're not always gonna be your best recovered. You're not always gonna be, you know, up to the perfect golden standard that you have for yourself. And that's okay. You know, sometimes that's just how it goes and there's nothing you can do about it, so. Okay, so I'd typically like to do the leg press next, because I like to go, you know, I like to shift the emphasis from opposing muscle groups. So like when I'm doing triceps, I like to go to biceps next. When I'm doing back, I like to go to chest next. Since we started with quads, then I went to the RDL, which is more hamstrings, and then I wanted to go back to quads. However, the machine is taken, or the plate loaded leg press is taken, so I'm just improvising, and we're just going to move on to the next exercise, which is the unilateral dumbbell hip thrust. I'm going to be going down today just because I want to get more reps, and this dumbbell is a lot more easily available to me. So we're going to go for like, I think that this is an exercise which is really built for higher rep sets. So that's what we're going to be going for. Okay, I got like 15 there, which is way more than 8 that I got last time. Oh, I almost ate it there. Wow, that's crazy. Just by doing it unilaterally and dropping the weight and really trying to feel and get that full range of motion, you know, that peak contraction and then the bottom range, I was able to feel like my hamstrings and quads working a lot more to a much greater extent. Whenever I'm doing hip thrusts, I'm really only feeling my glutes, which obviously is where you should be feeling it, but your hamstrings and quads are working as well, just to a lesser degree. So by doing it that way and really honing in that like mind muscle connection type of deal, you know, basically what that is just trying to feel the primary mover working more than any other muscle group. And just by doing that, I could definitely feel the whole gambit of responses that was happening in my body. I mean, I could definitely like hone into my legs more than ever there. So I think that that's something that's pretty like invaluable. Okay, since I mentioned that I'm on a time crunch, we're just gonna get it back into the next set right away. And this isn't like as fatiguing of an exercise as like the barbell hip thrust. So I'm okay with having shorter rest periods. And since it's unilaterally, the other side is theoretically resting. In this case, it's kind of hard to separate glutes, but I think that I'm doing an okay job. Ooh, damn, my glutes are on fire. Okay, other one. Whew. Okay, guys, let's see if we can go and snag that plate loaded leg press now. Okay, shall we? All right, so next up, I'm getting to the plate loaded leg press, like I mentioned. I'm going up to 5 plates, so it's a little bit of a jump, but I feel like I can handle it because I did 10 and then like 5 rest pause, or not rest pause, but partials on the last 2 sets last week. So I'm gonna go for it, and just 5 plates seems like I've never actually reached 5 plates on each side, so I'm pretty excited. Though I do want to talk about the idea of once you get to like a certain number of plates or a certain amount of weight, it seems kind of daunting to do the weight, and I feel like your mindset can really be affected. Like if you're doing a ton of weight on a given lift, then you may get in your head about it and be like, oh, I'm not strong enough, I can't lift enough weight, I can't lift that level of weight, I'm not gonna be able to do it. And I think that is like a mental hurdle that probably every like pro athlete, everybody that's just trying to get better at a sport or get better at lifting has to overcome at some point, is that idea, that almost like imposter syndrome, where you are physically strong enough, but your mind is the ultimate frontier in terms of you have to accept it and like really tell yourself that, you know, you can do it. And I think that's like the limiting factor that a lot of people don't know how to surpass is that mental aspect. And therefore, I'm gonna tell myself, this is lightweight, I can lift it, you know, and especially since I already did like Smith machine back squats, like my quads are pretty, like, they're warm now, they're good to go. I have no reason not to be able to lift this thing, you know, unless I use shitty form, but I don't intend to do that on purpose. Anyway. Okay, let's see if we can get some rest pauses out of this. Or sorry, partials. The partials felt a little scary, so I kind of phoned those in, but that's another, you know, the mindset's already starting to affect me. But I'm actually really happy with that. I mean, I got, what was that? Pretty, like 10 pretty decent reps. I may have been able to get like another inch or two deeper, which would have been ideal, but I'm pretty happy with that. I'll try better on the second set, okay? I'd like to briefly bring up the topic of bulking and cutting as it pertains to my hypertrophy program, Myomax. This program is specifically designed for hypertrophy, and it's very, very high volume, high stress, decently high intensity, and the volume progressively increases over the course of the 9 weeks from 14 sets per body part to 22 on week 9. And the reason why I'm saying all this is it's designed with a bulking mentality and a bulking lifestyle. If you guys are in a cutting phase, I wouldn't recommend running my program, and I wouldn't recommend running any program that is like really volume and intensity intensive, because while you're cutting and you're in like a fat loss phase, you're gonna be immediately like, you're not gonna be well equipped to handle the demands of a like true high demanding intensity program like mine or like others. You're definitely, I mean, yes, you can try, but you're not going to be seeing the progress that you really want, I don't think. I think that if you really want to see a true progress and put a program like through the ringer and see what you get out of it, you got to be in a caloric surplus. So you need to be at least like 1 to 3, 4, 500, 1 to 500 or so calories above your maintenance level calories. If you guys don't know what your maintenance is, you can just use like some free calculators online. I think that like, what is it, like your body weight in pounds times 14 or 16 or something will give you like a rough ballpark. And then obviously like that's not gonna be 100% accurate. And that's when you essentially take your weight for a week at a certain level of calories and see if it budges. And if it's going up like 1 to 2 pounds, then you're probably in the clear. And if it's staying the same, then you need to up your calories. And if it's decreasing, then you definitely need to up your calories. And that's kind of like how you can determine whether you're truly bulking or not. And then on top of that, like you would know because your weights are going up in the gym and stuff. And I'm going off on a tangent now, but basically what I wanted to say was, if you're in my program or another high volume, high intensity program like it, you definitely want to be eating enough food and intaking enough calories. Okay, set numero dos. Ooh. Those long lathe partials at the end are so challenging to perform. I almost feel like I should be performing them before I hit failure, because by the time I hit failure, they're almost impossible to even get like a quarter rep up, because I'm so fatigued at that point. Of course, like that's so much more muscle damage and mechanical tension being placed upon my quads and other muscle groups in my lower body, but it just feels odd when I'm only moving it like, 6 inches or whatever, and then that's the partial. It just doesn't seem right to me, but I'll tell you, I'm glad to be on the final set. I think I'll be even more glad when it's over. And honestly, like, I say that out of love because I love the leg press. However, it's difficult, especially when you're continuously bumping up the weight. Okay, I'm doing the leg extension next. I don't know why it's called the leg extension, because it's really a quad extension. It's really just focusing on the upper portion of your thighs. These 4 muscles that we call the quadriceps. I really like using a leg extension of some sort, just because when is like the hardest part of like a squat or something, or like any leg movement, going to be when your knee is fully extended? That doesn't really happen very often. Like when you are at the bottom of a squat, your knee is fully flexed. So it's like this, but versus a leg extension, it's in the opposite motion. It's when your knee is most extended. So I think that's important to include a little bit of both. And that's why I include the leg extension, at least some variation of it, on every leg day. And additionally, it really focuses on the vastus medialis, which is this like teardrop muscle on your inner thigh. And it's hard to develop this muscle. Of course, you can develop it on squats and stuff, but you develop it to a larger degree when you are using the leg extension, quad extension. I'm going up to 160 pounds, and then this is a drop set, so I'll probably drop it back down to 100. So this is like a 15-pound jump, but last time I got 12 with relative ease. And even though this is more of an isolation, I still think that it deserves its fair due. Every single exercise deserves to be treated with the same respect as another exercise, in my opinion. Ooh, I got 12 just like I did with 145, but holy heavens, holy hell, that was a lot more challenging than 145 would have been. And for the drop set. Ooh. Dang. I will say, this is a little mental cue that I like to implement every time I'm doing this exercise. Well, any exercise, but especially this one. Make sure that you're going into full knee flexion to get the greatest stretch upon your quads, so that you can get that full range of motion. If you're not going into full knee flexion, you're probably leaving some growth out there in like the void, you know what I mean? You're just wasting some growth potential, because when your knee is fully flexed, that's when you're getting the biggest weighted stretch stimulus, which is very, very important for muscular hypertrophy. So don't cut yourself shy. I know that this portion, like the upper portion, that feels like you're doing the most work. However, I think that the most, like the furthest down position is equally important, if not more important. I'm not gonna rest long here. I find that you really don't need that much rest on movements like this, any like isolation, any single joint movement. And what I quantify that as is like on a leg press, you're moving your hip joint and your knee joint to push the weight up. With this, you're only focusing on that quad and that quad extension. And that's why this is single joint, just knee. And something like a leg press, it's multi-joint. You got your hip joint and your knee joint working in conjunction to push the weight up. So any single joint is inherently going to be using less muscles. There's less joints. Okay, let's go for 12 again. I've said it before, but there's nothing like a good quad burn. Something else that people talk about is like their toe positioning on a movement like this. And yes, when you're moving your toes in or out, it's going to be working the quads a little bit different. And the reason for that is just because when you point your toes out, your knee turns out too, because you're turning your femur inside of your hip joint. And then that's just due to gravity and how you're extending up, that's going to be hitting a certain heads of the quads a little bit differently, and that goes for any muscle group. But I think it's like pennies on the dollar. I want to get too obsessed about it. Okay, next up I'm moving on to the seated hamstring curl, and this is actually my favorite hamstring curl variation. And the reason for that is because when you're seated, it provides a much greater stretch on the hamstrings, since like, just try standing up and then touching your toes. What does that look like to you? That looks like this movement when you're leaning forward. And just by trying that out, standing up and touching your toes, you'll realize that that provides a great stretch on the hamstrings. And that's why a Romanian deadlift is such a phenomenal hamstring developer. So this is just mimicking that, except it's turning it into a single joint movement, since you're only focusing on using your hamstrings. That's something that the prone or lying hamstring variation neglects. However, I like to include both in my programming because variation is important in my opinion. So anyway, whenever you're doing this, I think you're leaving gains on the table, so to speak. People love to say that. If you are not huddling over, if you're just back, you're not gonna be as strong, you're not gonna enact that stretch position. Anyway, I'm going up from 135 to 140, so just a 5-pound jump. Frick. You guys ever doing a lift and you can feel the blood rushing to your face? That just happened to me. Anyway, I'm doing a drop set here, so I'm going down to 95. Oh, I'll tell you, doing hamstring curls like that, if you guys haven't tried it, it's gonna light your shit up. I'm feeling that pump going, but I think I'm good to go. I rested about 2 minutes. And honestly, after this set, I'm calling it. I only have 2 exercises left, and I'll tell you guys what it is, just in case you don't have the program. I'm gonna be doing 3 sets of hanging leg raises, and then 2 sets of cable crunch superset with some like seated lateral raise machine, just so that I get some extra abdominal work and some extra side lateral work, because I think that those muscle groups can handle the frequency. So anyway, this is gonna finish off legs though. It's gonna do it. I just realized I was doing too much weight. Shit. I fucked that up. That really ruined my rhythm. I put it on 155 instead of 140. I didn't even notice until like 4 reps in. Maybe that means that I'm stronger than I think. It's almost like I'm tricking the mindset or something, but I kind of threw off my rhythm, but I think that I recovered from it because I still got 12 without too much of an interference. Let's do the drop set. Oh, all right, guys. That's gonna do it for what I record. I'm gonna go and finish up the hanging leg raise, and then the cable crunch and a side lateral machine. So anyway, or sorry, the machine crunch. Anyway, that concludes week 2, day 5. I hope you guys like this one. I hope you guys are following along, but catch you tomorrow for the last day of week 2. We're getting there, making progress. Bye.